So in 1885, we were talking about the Statue of Liberty, newly arrived in New York Harbor, like the biggest Lego set ever. In 1885, Canada was 18 years old, and we were talking about Queen Victoria and about Louis Riel. And we were talking about the first continuous train journey all the way from Montreal to the Pacific coast. And in 1885, we gathered to worship for the first time, and dressed in our long skirts with frills and bustles, in whalebone corsets and big hats, dressed in tailcoats and starched white button-on collars and top hats, shiny and black, to be removed at the door. We spoke together for the first time the words of the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Because whatever else we were talking about in 1885, we were talking about Jesus. In 1902, we were talking about Canada's first movie theater opening in Vancouver. We were talking about Cuba gaining independence. We were talking about Australia being the first nation to give women the vote in national elections. And although we weren't talking about it yet, that's the year that Foster Hewitt was born. In 1902, we finished renovating this building that we had bought from the Methodist congregation. And we gathered to worship for the first time in the light of these windows, and dressed in our floor-length skirts and our sleeves down to the wrist, with our big poofy shoulders and white gloves. Dressed in our three-piece suits with long jackets and starched shirt fronts with high collars. We spoke together the words of the Lord's Prayer. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Because whatever else we were talking about in 1902, we were talking about Jesus. In 1945, we were talking about the rumors and the news of what had really been going on during World War II. We were talking about Jackie Robinson signing a contract with the Montreal Royals baseball team, the first major league affiliate team to break the color barrier and had a black player on their team. We were talking about what it meant to continue living with wartime rationing of basic food supplies and gasoline and wine. And in 1945, we gathered to worship in this place and dressed in clothes that we made ourselves out of whatever fabric was available, in simpler styles and shorter skirts with just a hint of the military about it. And dressed in either our second-hand demob suits that were given to returning soldiers, or for a few lucky and wealthy individuals, zoot suits. Are you familiar?
Yep.
Zoot suits. They were long and they were baggy, and they had these tight ankles so that you wouldn't trip over your pants. And snappy fedora hats. And we spoke together the words of the Lord's Prayer. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Because whatever else we were talking about in 1945, we were talking about Jesus. In 1985, our centennial celebration here at this church, we were talking about this new thing. Have you heard of this thing? It's called the World Wide Web. People can share information across the planet without even picking up a phone or buying a stamp. Everybody wants that in their house, but how likely is that to happen? And when we weren't talking about things like that, we were walking the streets, sporting our Walkmans. Did you have a Walkman? Who had a Walkman? Yeah. So that we could listen to our cassettes of the latest Huey Lewis and the News album. Or if you were in church, maybe the latest Imperials album. And in 1985, we gathered to worship, dressed in our designer jeans. In my high school, it was Jordache. had to be Jordache jeans. Designer jeans and flash dance sweatshirts. Remember that? Or for those of us who are a little more, conservative, it was Laura Ashley dresses. Do we remember Laura Ashley dresses? We gathered to worship dressed in, and you know who you are, white linen jackets, pastel t-shirts, skinny neckties, squared off at the bottom, and everywhere you looked, big hair.
Bigger the better.
And we spoke together the words of the Lord's Prayer. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. Because whatever else we were talking about, in 1985, we were talking about Jesus. In 2020, we were talking about COVID-19. We were talking about maybe someday not having to talk about COVID-19. And in 2020, we gathered to worship dressed in our pajamas, in our most comforting clothes, some of which, after a while, didn't seem to fit quite the same. We dressed for Zoom rooms. We dressed wearing blouses and full makeup and sweatpants, shirt and tie and cargo shorts. And we gathered to worship, if not in body, then in spirit, both loving and hating that wondrous World Wide Web. And we spoke together the words of the Lord's Prayer, for yours is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever, because in 2020, whatever else we were talking about Jesus. 2024, what are we talking about? We're talking about politics. We're talking about war, about climate change, about the housing crisis, about the opioid crisis, about AI, and about Taylor Swift. In 2024, we gather to worship dressed in Yu-Gi-Oh t-shirts, in stylish dresses and comfortable jeans, in suit jackets, or whatever we need to wear to go to work this afternoon. We gather to worship in runners and high heels and shiny leather shoes. And in 2024, whatever else we're talking about, we are talking about Jesus. We are talking to Jesus. We are still asking the question that the apostles asked that day, Lord, teach us to pray. Teach us not just the words, but the heart. Teach us not just the religious exercise and how to tick a box at the end of the day, but the heart habit, the all-day, ongoing conversation with the one who started the conversation and who punctuated it with the ultimate mic drop moment. It is finished. But our story, Calvary Church, our story isn't finished yet. We still have things to talk about. We still have work to accomplish. We still have adventures to take. We have fashions to regret. We have struggles to fight. We have grieving to do. We have candles to blow out. And we have cake to eat. So Calvary Baptist, happy anniversary. And thank you. And thank God. Amen.